even though I hate it very, very much. So anyway, let's start with the budget. It's 9:15 or so, 9:16, so let's start with the budget that's on this side of the sheet that I passed out. Did everybody get a sheet? Okay, this is just a summary of everything. Like I said, I have all the figures. If you want them, I can get them for you. In column A, you will see the budget that we passed last May, whenever we had our meeting at that time. Column B is an updated budget. And what happened there was we had things like we wanted to hire a new janitorial assistant or maintenance assistant to work with Dean. We were not, we couldn't get one because we weren't at a right price. We had to raise our minimum wage for that. That made us have to raise the wage that Ann is getting because she was going to be being paid less than the new person. So that wasn't quite right. And then I think there was, Sharon went to full-time. So she, the money in there also reflects that. So that's the amended budget that we had to do, or reflects some of that. And then column C is the budget for next year. We'll jump over way to the end for column F, which is would be what the budget would be if we were going to hire the education person that was approved last year at the annual meeting. And column D is a sample of what the budget might look like in 2025 if we have 2.5 pastors in place. So that explains what the 3 columns are. Do you have any questions about the dollars and stuff, or what's proposed on it? Yes.
Can you explain the program payroll, what that decrease came from?
I believe that decrease came from the fact that they were rolling over the money that we had set aside for the education person and rolled it over into the pastor's expense. If you go over to column C, you'll see where one is down and the other is up. Any other questions? I think it's interesting to point out that our budget will be less if we go to a 2.5 people than it would be if we hired the education person that we wanted. I thought it would come out about even, but it actually comes out that we would be saving money by getting a pastor versus having an education person. Yes? Okay.
Under structures and grounds, there's 2 line listings, administration and facility. What's the difference?
I am not on that board and I have no idea. I would assume facility means the building itself, the administration, I'm not sure. Any further questions? I'm going to ask one more time. Any further questions? We can come back, but I'd like to get over to, well, if we're not going to have any questions there, I'd like to turn over and do the bylaws side. What we currently have in place, and the bylaws changed, let me just explain a little bit, is that in order to be a member of Grace Lutheran Church, you are supposed to attend worship, go to communion at least once a year, and support it financially. We're looking to change that to read what the proposed bylaw says, and I'll read it out loud. A baptized or confirmed member is someone who desires to participate in the life and ministry of Grace Lutheran Church. If someone has not worshiped of record or financially contributed of record to this congregation for 1 calendar year, they will be contacted by registered mail with the request that they communicate their desire to remain on the membership roll. If there is no response after this letter has been sent, their names will be removed at a subsequent meeting of the church council. Now, I know that seems severe, but right now we have approximately 200 plus people on the rolls of grace that haven't done anything for over 3 or 4 years. And we're looking to clean up the rolls a little bit. Well, they're not going to be cut off forever. They can always come back to Grace. All they have to do, all we're asking is that they call and say, yes, they want to stay on the rolls. It says, yes, that we request that they communicate their desire to remain on the membership roll. We have removed people in the past, yes. This isn't something new, we're just trying to make it easier for the pastors. We just don't have time to call 200 people and say, what's going on? Did you move? You're not getting, well, they wouldn't get the registered letter either then, but did you change your name? Are you going to another church and you forgot to tell us to take you off the rolls? What's going on? That's all we want to know so that we can keep people. I realize the letter sounds harsh. I agree, but I don't know how else we can do it. If somebody has an idea, please call me. I'll pass it on at the council meeting Tuesday night. Well, this is legalese here, okay? This is the legal statement. Last night at the meeting after the service, the pastors were very, very much so saying that they would be writing a pastoral letter saying, we haven't heard from you, we are hoping everything's okay, what can we do to serve you, we don't know, you haven't been here, we want to know what's going on, and do you wish to remain a member? This is more because this is going into the bylaws, and that's where the lawyers get involved. Like I said, if somebody has a better way of doing this, fine, but the pastors do not have the time right now to sit and call 200 people to find out what their desires are.
How does a person come back, say they don't, do they have to go through a new member class to be a member?
No, they would not have to go through a new member class. All they'd have to do is contact the office and ask to be put back on the rolls.
And I don't think that's quite accurate right now, because from a family perspective, it required a meeting with the pastors to get back on the rolls. It was not just a phone call to the church.
I'm not really truly aware of what it is right now. But I do know it's a simple phone call, and then whatever they've decided it needs to be, it's just a matter of telling us that you want to go back on the rolls, and they'll do it. I mean, and this is going to be, I believe they said the letter would either be a quick phone call to the office to say, keep me on the rolls, or an email, just shoot us an email back saying that, yes, please keep me.
So like if they stop, they answer you and, so they answer and say at this time they don't want to be a member, but then maybe a year down the road or something, do they have to go through a new membership class, or can they just call a year or two? Maybe they move out of state or something for something and they want to come back a year or two later. Is there a time frame is there a time frame, I guess?
To my knowledge, there is no time frame. Carol, do you remember in the past? I know you were the secretary before me. I don't think we had a time frame. I think they just had to contact the office.
Well, honestly, they weren't contacted. That's the other issue. These are people that weren't involved for, they weren't here for a lot of years, 3 years, no action. Pam was saying they call, pastors call. There have been like 20-some people removed from membership because of that. So all of this is new, is that it's in letter form instead of conversation. That's what the new bylaw is. The process has still been.
This isn't a new process. But the other thing is, too, is like, I know every year, being on the Board of Education, I'm the chairperson of that also. Every year, I get a list of 5 or 6 families I have to call. Hi, this is Pam from Grace Lutheran. Just calling to remind you, it's registration time for Sunday school. Hope we see you in the fall. And that's usually the message I end up leaving because nobody picks up their phone anymore. And I think that's part of the issue right now, too. I mean, caller ID is wonderful, but it can also be a problem, too, so. Does anybody have any other ideas of a way that we could contact them?
There might be some benefit to seeing a sample of the letter that would typically go to one of these folks.
Okay, I could request that.
You know, dear Joe Blow or Miss Smith or whatever, and then, because it sounds to me like the letter is a lot more gentle or gentler.
Yeah.
I get harassed about that all the time. The letter would be a softer way of what's going on versus the bylaw.
I will request the pastors have a draft proposal of the letter for the meeting on the 7th. I actually brought paper to write stuff down. Anybody else?
This says it will go out via registered mail.
Yes.
Registered mail is probably the most expensive way to send something.
Yes, it is.
Is there something in the budget to take that up, or can it go in a less expensive manner?
Well, the question was about the registered mail versus regular mail,
Not even regular mail, but
or a different way. I believe that's taken into account in the budget. But this way, we will know that for sure they got the letter, because we'll get a receipt back saying, you know, they signed for it. So we won't get the old, I never got that letter. Well, now, whether they open it or not, once they sign for it, we'll hope that they'll say, curious, why did I get a registered letter from Grace Lutheran Church? That's our hope.
Is the reason that we need this count because of calling a pastor? Is that the reason?
Well, not because we're calling the pastor, no, we're just trying to clean up the rolls. Hi, Ralph. Yes, Clarissa.
Many have not come back. You're taking more people out of the congregation.
Well, we're hoping like the people that, okay, I think Pastor Larry said there's like 30 or 40 people that normally watch the service on the YouTube channel. I'm hoping what they're going to do is say, you know, yeah, hey, we're not coming to church because we're watching it on TV. Again, then they would come back to us and say, don't take me out of membership. I am attending worship. I am watching it on television.
If they don't take the time to come to church, you think they're actually going to take the time to call and tell you about?
Well, our numbers say that there's 30 or 40 people that are very, very faithful every week watching the worship services. So that's all that I can say. I have no idea on that one. I don't do anything with the offerings.
I just have one more question that has something to do with this. On there you
I'm not sure what, Ralph, do you have any idea on that? You know, there's other positions. The pastors are going to be retiring within the next few years.
But then they always say on there that there's other positions that are gonna be retired or whatever.
I'm not sure, I don't know of anything else that's being retired.
On the new budget, what we're gonna be eliminating, is that eliminating?
No, but we get this letter all the time, and they say that we should check into because the pastors are going to be retired and other positions. I was wondering what those other positions were.
I don't remember seeing that terminology.
Does anyone else have an idea?
Are you talking about Dick Schmeling?
Well, yeah, Pastor Dick, part of his, if we hire a new pastor, Pastor Dick will not be doing what he's doing right now.
They just have other positions that I didn't know what I meant by other positions.
Well, for one thing for sure, you know, that education person will be going away. That money that we voted on last year will be being used for the new pastor position. Correct me, Ralph, if I have this wrong, but Pastor Larry will go to half-time when this person starts. So half of his salary will be used to pay for the new person. Pastor Dick's salary, he will no longer be doing the fill-in positions that he's doing right now, and his salary will go towards this new position. The money that we had set aside for this education person will go to this new position for the new pastor. So that way, that's how we have that money covered for paying this new person. So there will be some shakeup in the staffing.
Are you talking, when you're saying positions, you might be talking responsibilities.
Right.
Talking about like, Pastor Dick ran the confirmation program. We also have the visitation minister that goes and sees the homebound people, the hospital visitation. Those are all tied into, and I think what you're saying as far as a position. That's, I think it's mistakenly worded where it might be the responsibilities that go with that new pastor that we're trying to bring into the organization here.
Well, that could be, and I know they're hoping that this person will be a younger person so that they can help with the youth and education a little bit more, but that won't be strictly their position. They'll still be calling on shut-ins. That he or she will be doing, you know, everything. They're not, you know, it's not going to be a strict education person, and that's it. They're going to realign everything, but all three will be working together to get everything accomplished here.
Is Rebecca still doing the?
Pastor Rebecca left over a year ago.
That's the thing, Pastor Rebecca left, so all the hometown visitation, Pastor Larry, Pastor Julie have taken on. Pastor Dick now stepped aside from the confirmation program. Pastor Julie's assumed that role in addition to everything else she does. So right now, they're taking on more and more responsibility where there is nobody else to help them out. That's why they're trying to create this, where they first started out with the educator that they were going to bring in for the youth, which didn't materialize. Now they're figuring the best way to do this. Let's get a pastor in here, get them trained, get them used to the congregation, have the congregation get to know them, so when they do go into the retirement phase, the plan, and don't quote me on this, but the plan was for them possibly to take over as the lead pastor and go from there.
Right. We were hoping for continuity in the transition that's going to be coming. Yes.
Months ago, after we could not find that education coordinator, they talked about getting a deacon with the idea if it was a deacon, they would also support Christ Community as part of their responsibilities. What happened to that idea with this new pastor? Is that still in the process, or is this going to be
I think
only-
the idea of the sharing with another congregation that fell through. The small amount of contribution financially that the other congregation would be able to share, and it didn't make sense. Plus, it doesn't fit our needs for the continuity of our church in the future. To, you know, this plan now to have a younger pastor come in as part of a succession seems to be a better plan for our church as we move forward into the future, knowing that we have two pastors right now that are at or nearing retirement age. So,
Plus, the other thing would be is if we did go on with Christ Community, one of the pastors would always have to be over there preaching or taking care of their Sunday school, and they wouldn't be able to be here to help ours. So we're going that we really would like to have this person here on campus rather than having to split the time. Unfortunately, it would have been nice if we could have done something with Christ Community, but the pastor they have right now doesn't tend to respond to any questions that we ask. So it's hard to communicate with them.
you know, I think that plan that was discussed with them would have helped them a lot and wouldn't have helped any of our needs here, significantly. So, and the deacon role, of course, is somewhat limited, not being an ordained pastor, and that wouldn't help our succession plan either. So, all of those kind of fell. They were good things to consider, financially and otherwise, but as time went on, they didn't make sense and they fell through. And the current plan seems to be the best fit for what we need for the long-term, health and growth of our congregation.
Any more questions?
What is our total membership now versus what it will be if they?
I don't know what the membership numbers are.
Our giving units are in the 600s, I think, something like that, my understanding, but
I don't have that information with me today, so.
Just curious, because we're talking 3 pastors, 2.5. I know a lot of other churches don't have that much support for larger congregations, so.
if we, in the budget proposals, it shows what would happen in 2024 if we kept our 2 pastors and then got the full-time youth and family leader, and that would be a budget that's significantly higher than it would be under the plan presently, where we would discontinue the visitation minister, the youth and family leader, and then Pastor Larry going to half-time. And so financially, this is the most economical plan as well in the long term. Because if we're going to continue to thrive, we also have to continue to develop and enhance our youth programs. Some congregations, like ours that, are aging as time goes on, that don't develop the youth program, there's no future to those congregations. So if we don't have the young people coming up and have a vibrant youth program, then, you can chart on the map, kind of where we're going with that type of plan. So I think, again, long term, we need to have pastoral staffing that can not only take over in the succession with retirement, but can also pick up where we left off with our youth programs and thrive and enhance those programs, because that's the future of the congregation.
I also think that we're looking for a younger pastor, somebody that's not going to be fresh out of seminary. We do have the money set aside that we can get somebody with 5 years of experience. And I think that will help too, because when that person comes in, they'll have been in the ministry already and will be able to hit the deck running. If we say, go to this board meeting, they're going to know what's going on and things. All right, now I know I saw another hand go up. Yes.
Do you anticipate Pastor Julie also going half-time in the future?
No, not at this time. Pastor Julie, as far as I know, is planning to stay at full time.
So she will go full-time until she totally retires?
Right.
That's my understanding. Now, I may not be completely and totally aware of something that, she'll cut back if we hire, what the future holds is totally unknown right now.
Was there any thought as to what would happen at that point? Does that mean another pastor?
I have no idea. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
I think down the road, if Pastor Julie got to a point where she said, I don't want to be full-time anymore, and we'd have to start the search for another full-time pastor. Maybe by then Pastor Larry would be fully retired, and we'd have, basically Julie as halftime, and we'd have to have another person, a younger person come in. But that's why the one that we hopefully would be able to call now, would provide for the continuity in that whole process of transferring kind of leadership within the church. Versus if they both retired and we put out a call for 2 pastors and got 2 essentially strangers to our congregation come in, we can get quality people, but we wouldn't have the kind of continuity that we're hoping for.
So we're looking to call a full-time pastor.
Correct. And we're also hoping that it'll be a younger person that is all up onto how all of the ways the kids communicate nowadays, because I've learned that young people don't respond to text messages anymore.
And younger is relative, obviously, but,
Yeah.
but we certainly don't need another, 60-something pastor as a new person coming in, because that wouldn't provide a long-term, plan for us. So.
So if this is approved, and that goes out to a call, that the synod would help recruit?
Yes,
I mean, that takes some time. What are the prospects for a 5-year out pastor? Is that harder to find than someone fresh out?
actually, we've been in touch with the Senate offices. Senate offices seem to think it'll be easier to find a 5-year pastor than somebody brand new, because so many congregations are in financial trouble right now that they're looking for the new seminary grads because they can pay them the least. So somebody that's been out there and ready to move on to their second call, this would be a good place for them to come, because we're in a city, we have a lot of amenities here in Green Bay, including free Packer tickets that the church has. So we're hoping, you never know, that might entice somebody, but we're hoping that that we're in a good place for somebody that's already been out in the field and ready to come to a bigger church. We'll be able to handle.
Is that timeframe usually match what they're looking at for retirement too? Because this is all assuming this is
This is all built into the timeline. I mean, they're thinking that we might have somebody as early as next February. I'm thinking that's a little bit of a dream, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and presently, we're focusing on approval of the budget, and there'll be a separate congregational meeting and vote on a calling of a new pastor down the road, but we'll have better definition of what that person might look like at that point as well, and what the needs will be.
One of the things the council still has to do is we have some paperwork that we have to fill out that goes back to the Senate offices that, we were talking about this letter that's going out to non-active members. They want to know how many people we have in our congregation. What are we looking for? We have to give them all sorts of, statistics, dynamics of our congregation, so that when the bishop gets this, she can say, okay, this guy applied, yeah, he's a good match. This one isn't a good match for them. So they will be helping us all along the way. And in fact, they were the ones that kind of recommended that maybe it was time to look for a pastor. They've been, the assistant to the bishop, I think his last name is O'Callahan, has been in contact with us a couple times, and I believe that he was the one that first brought this up about looking for a pastor rather than a lay person.
Part of the budget increases this year was also, every year we've tried to keep our pastors paid at what they call the synod minimums, which, is probably less than what some may deserve, but we always want to hit that minimum mark, and the synod, with cost of living, raised those minimums, and we had to include something in the budget to make sure Pastor Julie was up to the minimums, because if you're a young pastor looking at this congregation, one of the things you're going to look at is what's the financial ability to pay at least the minimum that the synod would recommend, because we don't want to scare people off that we're not paying at least synod minimums for our pastors. And so we've done it historically every year. It seemed like we really had to do it again this year because it's fair to Pastor Julie, but it also creates a better environment for candidates to take a look at our church and see this as a great opportunity, not only from a standpoint of being the head of the church, but also financially for a young person.
Any more questions?
No need to motion and adjourn.
Was I supposed to be using Robert's rules here? I didn't think we were in an official meeting. We were just in a forum, so. If you do have any questions or concerns, you know, my name is Pam Anderson. Please call me. I mean, I'll take your concerns back. We can talk on the phone. Call me. I will take them back to the council on Tuesday night when we meet, because we'll be putting together the meeting for the 7th. So I will be more than happy to bring back concerns. You know, don't feel like something comes up after you leave here that you can't ask it. Please do call me. And I'm sure Ralph would take phone calls too. Anything else? I think we can leave then if there's no other concerns.